All right, everyone. Monday morning. How are we all? Good. Hopefully, if you're not good, there's something up with you because Celtic are magic. 3-0 over our. I was going to say our greatest rivals. I don't know if you could use the word great or greatest to anything to do with that team at the moment. They are in our shadow. We are completely playing a different sport to them at the moment, and it showed again yesterday. And yes, I'm going to be extremely cocky over the next 40 minutes or so, everyone. So settle down and buckle up for that. Tony, hello. Ryan, hello. How are you guys?
Very well, very well. Another beautiful Sunday, as we saw yesterday. Enjoyed it immensely.
Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Completely agree with what Tony said. You know, I thought Celtic were okay yesterday. They didn't really need to. I was saying this on the post match. They didn't really need to break sweat in that game, particularly in the first half. I thought or the second half rather, because they could have scored more. They should have scored more, but they instead elected to give the new boys a bit of a taster of the Glasgow derby, which I quite like. I think that's good man management and game management from Brendan Rodgers as well. Could have been more, should have been more, but I think we'll take the 3, and we'll be pretty happy with that. 5 points clear of Rangers, level on points at the moment with Aberdeen. You know, that's shaping up to be quite a tasty game versus Aberdeen, and I think it's just over a month's time.
Yeah, they're the kind of other form team in the country, aren't they? But they're certainly not playing the football that we are at the moment. I just thought Celtic were a joy to watch again yesterday. I'm just loving watching the team. At the moment, we just have so much quality all over the park. I thought you could run through the team yesterday, Tony, and you'd be given not just pass marks, you'd be given 8, 9, 10 out of 10 ratings to the majority of the players. There really wasn't a bad performer yesterday at all.
Our ranked player ratings are up on the site. You can have a look at them, but I think you gave 4 players 9s. Was it, Ryan? 4, you said?
Can I tell you who I would have given in 9s, and we'll see if we're on the same wavelength. So I would have given a 9 to McGregor. I would have given, and was he not one of them?
He wasn't one of them. He was an 8.
Good start. Right, I'd have given a 9 to Kyogo, to Maida, to Bernardo, and to Kuhn.
Wow. I gave a 9.
But this sums it up. This sums it up because they were all brilliant.
Between 8s and 9s for the majority of the team. I think the lowest rating was 7 for out with the subs, because subs are different. But 7, I think I gave to Hatate, and even then he was all right. He just wasn't sparkling as the rest of the team was. But I gave my 9s to Alistair Johnson, Liam Scales, Paulo Bernardo and Dyson Maeda. I thought the 4 of them were absolutely incredible yesterday. They've really, Scales, in these big games, he seems to turn up and just put in a hell of a performance, and he did that yesterday, out with a shaky first 10 minutes, but I think the whole team was a bit shaky because Rangers were actually pressing. Then they somehow, or inexplicably, gave up the press after 10 minutes. They allowed Celtic to do what they want, and they just couldn't handle Celtic when they went forward. Bernardo was incredible. That is a real statement performance yesterday. If he'd have scored that goal right on half time, he'd have been carried off the park for how good he was. Maeda just doing Maeda things in a Glasgow derby game. And who was the other one? Alistair Johnson. Wow, he's going from strength to strength. He looks absolutely brilliant in this Brendan Rodgers side. He gives you absolutely everything every game. And he understands the fixture. There's that lovely video of him coming out of the huddle and sort of screaming into the air because he gets it. It's all about the passion for him, and he's got that passion, and I think it seeps through the team, and that's absolutely brilliant to see. But yeah, so many players that you can talk about. Even the players that get 8s very easily could have been 9s in my book.
I'm not so sure Rangers gave up the press. I just think Celtic turned up after the first 10 minutes, kind of gave them a feel of the ball and thought, you're not going to do anything with it. And Celtic's first lightning counter-attack caught them cold. And it's. I mean, you're talking millimetres. I still dispute whether that was offside or not. Because to me, that was actually the best football and goal of the game. I've got to be honest. I thought it was a brilliant,
fabulous,
just the way you want Celtic to play. And I thought in those situations when it was like that, you sort of benefited, or the benefit of the doubt went to the attacker. I mean, I really do. I want to see a concrete and conclusive angle, because the photos that I've seen I'm not convinced. It didn't matter in
I
the
agree
grand
with you,
scheme of
Tony.
things. In the grand scheme of things, yeah, completely. And we said it on the pod yesterday, but do you know what the great thing for me was? Celtic didn't retreat into their shell and they didn't get annoyed. The crowd didn't get annoyed. The crowd sensed we can rip them open at will here. And within 5 minutes, Maida scores, or 6 minutes, whatever it was, I think it's like 11 and 17 minutes. And they just felt, can he chalk them all off? You know what I mean? So let's go at them whenever they can. I mean, that, and they didn't fall out with themselves, didn't fall out with the referee. The crowd didn't really go mental either. I think they just realised this team were there for the taking if Celtic played their football. And I was just disappointed that goal didn't stand because it was a brilliant counter-attack goal. The manager mentioned it as well, and it was the best footballing goal of the day, but the goals they scored after that were excellent as well. But just, as I say, I've still not seen a conclusive photo to convince me that it was offside. Genuinely offside, but hey.
I agree with that, Tony. And yeah, as you say, we're 1-3 now, so we're not going to spend the next half an hour talking about it. But I do think it was very close, and it doesn't seem like there's a great margin for error with the technology that they're using. I know we can't afford the UEFA or the FIFA. I think it's UEFA stuff, isn't it? The automated stuff, but that to me, I was looking at, and I'm going, like, you can't even tell from the photo that he's offside. So I'm like, how are they? I know they've got some sort of calibration technology going, but you wonder how open to some sort of kind of margin for error that has. So we'll draw a line under that because obviously the team went on and won the game. I thought that was the key moment of the game. Funnily enough, the disallowed goal. I personally, my own take on what happened. Rangers came out. They came after his first 10 minutes. You saw that. They were going man for man. They were pressing Callum McGregor. I think it was Diamande on McGregor. And listen, we were nervous. First 10 minutes, Carter Vickers puts the ball out of play. Hatate passes the ball out of play at the same side. Rangers were the better team, I would say. I don't think they dominated it. I rewatched the first 10 minutes earlier today, and their two big chances they have, Dessers and Matondo, are both offside. So you can't call them chances because they're offside. And we had a wee kind of Greg Taylor moment on the left-hand side where he flashes it across. So it's not as if we were completely getting, dominated in the first 10 minutes, but Rangers were good. I think then what happens is we break the press the first time, and Callum McGregor's the reason for it. He runs off Diamande, Hatate slips it into him. Hatate takes a hell of a clattering, by the way, and suddenly 6 Rangers players are wrong side of the ball. 6 of them. And it just takes one pass from Callum McGregor to beat the other 4, and suddenly Kuhn and Kyogo are in. Like, it was ridiculous defending from Rangers and really good play from us. And my personal take is that moment, even though the goal was disallowed, it changed the atmosphere inside Celtic Park. It reminded our players how easy it can be, and I think it also, most importantly, put doubt into the minds of the Rangers players. And from that point, it was a matter of how many, really, Brian.
Yeah, the thing is, they were doing this in pre-season to Manchester City and Chelsea, so it shouldn't come as too much of a surprise that they're doing it against Rangers as well. That they've been showing this in pre-season, that they can counter so quickly. Once they break the press, it's lightning fast. When you've got lightning fast wingers and Daisen Maeda and Nicholas Kuhn running at you, it'll put the fear of life into you. And Rangers' fullbacks yesterday were frightened of what they were up against. I think Yefty got off lightly with Nicholas Kuhn. I think if he just believed in himself just a little bit more, he had him on toast the complete time he was on the park. All he needed to do was beat his man. Tavernier, listen, it's not a Rangers podcast, so I'm not going to go into the problems that are there. But as a captain, you're supposed to install confidence in your players. There was a point in the second half, and I've spoke about it with 4 or 5 different people over the past 24 hours or so. He gives the ball away and then he starts walking back to defend instead of running to get back. Whereas Kyogo ran 40, 50 yards to get up to get a defensive tackle in. That's the difference between the two sides. Celtic wanted it more than Rangers yesterday, and they showed it, and they're hungry. There's no worries now about a Brendan Rodgers team being, not up for it or anything like that. This team are fired up and they're ready. They want to beat anybody that's in front of them at home or away. It's just an exciting time to watch at the moment, and I think the football is immense, to be honest. It's It's dangerous. It's fast. It's dynamic. It's so strong. The counter attack is just so effective. There's so many adjectives you could use for it, but I just think they're playing some really good football at the moment, and they didn't really need to break sweat yesterday in order to do that. It could have and should have been more.
The great thing for me, Hamish, was the manager, despite the busy week that it was, off the park, with the transfer window and the Champions League draw, the manager said they focused on one thing all week: performance. Unbelievable that. There's a real backdrop of busyness about that football club heading into this game. It was third on our list of priorities. It was the rest of the transfer window, the Champions League draw, Celtic versus Rangers game, and I'd written an article saying it was one of the least hyped derbies ever. Brendan Rodgers got it drummed into them. Performance, performance, performance. And those guys took those words to the letter of the law, and that's why he was so pleased yesterday. I think he said at one point some of our attacking play was electric, and it was. When you're getting fans up off their seat and playing that way, you're doing it right. I mentioned yesterday as well that it's football played the way you want it to be played, isn't it? With an end product at the end of it, and that pleases you greatly. And I know you could say how bad Rangers were, and they were pretty dreadful, they were pretty poor, but Celtic set about them because the manager said he wanted a performance. Maybe didn't get the statement result that everybody wanted, the 5 or 6, but it's great to know that even this early in the season, they're working on that. And if you're going to nitpick, that's probably what the manager would have said. Look, I'd have liked a few more goals. I think he did mention that. It could have been, should have been more. But the chances were there for it to be more. And I don't think any Celtic supporter could. That is a nitpick. It just depends on your personal preference. But I think the great thing about this is this team's going to get better.
Mm-hmm. And
I'm looking forward to see how this transitions onto the big stage in the Champions League. For me, that's the big thing now moving forward.
100%. Listen, the domestic stuff will always be there, and we're not going to. The team aren't going to take their eye off the ball domestically, because Rodgers isn't going to allow them to do that. And the great thing is there's so much competition in the squad now that every match, no player can afford. I firmly believe there's no player in that squad that can afford to come off their game. Maybe Kasper Schmeichel you might look at as being the only one, but the vast majority, if they have a couple of games, we now have options that players can come in for them if they're having a bit of a tough time. So they're going to have that focus. But I agree with you, Tony. I think that was the big takeaway for me from yesterday, away from us thumping Rangers again, was God, I can't wait to see this in Europe. I can't wait to see Nicholas Kuhn running into that space, Kyogo running into the space. How's Paulo Bernardo going to play in Europe, and even Engels and guys like that playing through the press? I think there was signs in the first 10 minutes when it was difficult that we need to be better at times, I'll be honest, because you're going to play better teams with better presses than Rangers. But see when we break that press and get the ball quickly to Maida and Kuhn and Kyogo, it's going to be fascinating to watch, and we're going to score goals in Europe. I think the question will be, how many do we concede? That's going to be the issue for us. And so far, defence looks great, but obviously we're going to be tested far more. I was thinking earlier, last 10 years, I would say we had the Invincible team, fabulous team. We had Ange's team, kind of second season, the team that nearly got 100 points, fabulous team. I think this team that we're witnessing at the moment is as good as those two. I firmly believe that. And that's a huge statement, given how good those two teams were. But I firmly believe this team we're watching right now is as good as them. What do you think, Ryan?
There's so many different... you've got the sort of... Not the dregs of Ange Postecoglou's style, but you get the players that were brought there in the first place. Daizen Maeda scores the first goal. Rio Hatate scores the second goal. Those were two players that were brought in by Ange Postecoglou. But they look as if they're being... they're more... They're given less freedom, I would say, under Brendan Rodgers to go and express themselves, but they need to play to the system. I think Ange Postecoglou allowed them to basically go and do what they want. They've got more tactics, I think, with Brendan Rodgers, and I think you'll see that more in Europe too, which is needed, because I thought sometimes Celtic were a bit naive in Europe under Ange Postecoglou. Yes, they nearly bloodied a couple of noses, but there was other games in which they get absolutely hammered. That still might be the case in Brendan Rodgers' sides, but I just see so much improvement. I think the fact is it's so good already. There's only 4 or 5 games into the season in all competitions. What's this going to be like after 20, 25 games? Once Engels is up to speed, once Trusty's in the team, once Luke McCown's coming off the bench, Hatate, once he's fully kicking and flying in all gears, once Bernardo wasn't match fit until a couple of games ago. He will improve. He's only 22, 23 years old. All of a sudden you see strength and depth. And you're right in what you say, because nobody can be off their game now, or they'll get replaced in the team. That deadline day will be looked upon very, very favourably for the players that they've brought in on that last day, particularly the likes of McCowan, who is desperate to play for Celtic. This is a guy who would run through walls to play for Celtic, and to have him in and around the team. And, he gets on with his teammates. He already knows Cal McGregor, Greg Taylor and James Forrest. So that bodes well. You've got Arne Engels, a record signing, who at the moment could just be eased into the team. He could just have cameo appearances for the first couple of games because you trust Bernardo to come in and put a 7 or an 8 out of 10. All of a sudden, there is now slots and there's now opportunities for players, but at the same time, there's competition, and they know that if they drop ever so slightly for a couple of games, they're out of the team. I think that dynamic's going to be so good coming from Europe in midweek to games in the Premiership at the weekend. You're going to be able to chop and change without really losing a lot of quality, particularly in the midfield, and that really does bode well, because it means that everybody's going to be at their optimum level. They'll get enough rest, and the team won't suffer as a result of playing of people playing 50, 60 full games a season. Rather, you can manage their game time and make it easier on the players that are playing.
I mean, you talk about that competition there, and it's this kind of point, Scales yesterday, I thought that was a real positive of yesterday, the fact that Liam Scales and Greg Taylor were so good. We've very obviously just signed a centre-back and a left-back that are going to be competing with them. Many would hope would be taking their places, but Scales and Taylor both stood up yesterday.
Again, I get back to Hamish. It's great man management, because that game was won and he could have took both of those players off and gave Trusty and Vi their wave as well, but he didn't. So he's saying to these two guys, who played out their skin yesterday, Scales and Taylor, he clearly trusts them. So whatever he's saying to those two guys, they're performing for him. And he said, no, I'll give the bow to Engels and McCowan, but you two guys will have to cool your jets just now, because these two guys are performing for me. They're listening to what I'm telling them, and they're doing exactly what I want. And they were vital cogs in that machine yesterday that won the game against Rangers. So, and I think Brendan Rodgers even mentioned Scales. He said, where would we have been last season without Liam Scales? So when you are, I don't like Celtic players being used as kind of whipping boys, and I hate that phrase, but those two guys have been much maligned. They've been heavily criticised, but you have to give them credit where it's due. And the manager did yesterday. And those two players, were amongst the nines in terms of performance yesterday. They were both excellent. So, me, I'm a yellow jersey man. So if you've done nothing wrong, you don't deserve to be axed from the team or dropped from the side. So they go until such times when the manager deems, right, I'm going to rotate you, or I want to try and see what Trusty brings, see what Vi brings. So, and I don't think anybody would argue with that, would they?
No. And we're going to be going to playing 2 games a week, after when we come back from the breaks. There's going to be opportunities for all of these guys to get game times. We've been Sunday games all the way through so far. It's going to change very quickly. It feels very secure at the moment, but things are going to get pretty hectic, I would say, when the Champions League football comes in there. Jason bringing up Alistair Johnson says he's been massive for us so far. I think you're nodding, Ryan, so you'd agree with that. We've got Martin, and this is a point that I actually agree with. It felt like a game versus Aberdeen or Hearts. That's how far ahead we are. Time to push on now and leave them in the pack. Les D bringing up the clean sheets. 4 of them from 4 already. I think over 6 hours of league football, not a goal conceded yet. not even really looked like conceding. Okay, later on when we were basically took our foot off the gas, Rangers kind of came a little bit, but we just looked brilliant at the back so far. Engels will find it hard to start with that midfield display yesterday. Paulo Bernardo yesterday was fabulous. I thought, guys, just what a player.
A pressing monster. He presses so much. He's a European midfielder, and he's exactly what Celtic need when they do eventually make their way into Europe with the league phase of the Champions League. His numbers are going to be incredible for that. If you can only do it for 60 minutes, then so be it, because Celtic have got replacements on the bench that can come on and make a difference. I want him to knock his pan in for 60 minutes. And if he can do that and then come off and someone like McCowan or Hatate or Engels come on, then that's absolutely fine by me. You can see why Celtic were so keen on bringing him back permanently. You can see why Callum McGregor likes him so much, because he was talking about the fact that he wanted Bernardo back at the club. He enjoyed playing with Paulo Bernardo, and it shows because he's a team player. Look at if you watch the unique angle of Callum McGregor's goal, Bernardo's celebrating it as if he scored the goal. That's just the way that this team is functioning at the moment. Everybody celebrates each other's goals.
He wasn't on the pitch. You should point that out. He was on the bench at the time, and he's still the first one that runs to Callum McGregor.
Absolutely brilliant. But he got what an ovation he got when he came off the park yesterday, because I think people understood how much hard yards he put in and graft he put in to make sure that Celtic got that victory. If he'd have scored that goal, if he'd have scored that goal before half time, there would have been an even bigger ovation, because he done the hard part. All he had to do was put some power in the shot, and it was in the back of the net.
But Hamish, I like to the hard yards and the graft. There's a footballer there. I seen yesterday. He came from that Benfica academy. This guy can play football, and I think lots of people think he's a take on with the hard yards and the graft. But see, when you look past that as well, give him a football and he'll do things with it. And he was so disappointed in himself that he didn't score to make it 3-0 right before the interval, and it would have been a brilliant goal. But because he'd the freedom of Celtic Park, he just strolled into that position and then started chopping and changing, and then eventually he got it to his favoured right foot, and he didn't catch it right. But I mean, look at the pass for the first goal that releases Johnston. It's brilliant. It's utterly brilliant. And it opens everything up for everybody. And everybody sees the pictures after that. Johnston knows he gets to the byline and whips the ball across. Maida.
Everyone didn't see the picture. One guy didn't, Tony.
Who's that?
No, James Tavernier. He didn't.
Yeah. Well, I was just getting to him. But Maida's lightning, right? He's like, right, okay, here we go. But from the moment Bernardo releases that ball, everything just opens up for Celtic. And I think that's a great thing about Bernardo. Watch him, because there's a real football player there in the making. And in the few weeks that he's been back, Brendan Rodgers has improved him as a footballer. You know, he had those key moments against Rangers in the games last season. He clearly knows what this fixture's about, and he put on a wonderful hour. I think a lot of Celtic supporters were actually sad to see him come off yesterday, but they understood, because the manager wanted to give Engels his bow, but they were kind of like, oh, Bernardo's playing great. But again,
I would have taken Hatate off personally, but obviously it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
But another piece of good man management, saying to Bernardo, listen, you've done what I asked you, the game's in the bag, you know, just sit and enjoy the last half an hour as we just kind of manage this game. And as you say, he's out the dugout, technically, whatever you call it now, celebrating with McGregor, because that's him. He's just, again, like Jota, he also said he's came from Portugal and he's fallen in love with the club, so he's right into it now, and he's staking his claim to say, Matt O'Reilly's left, not going to be Matt O'Reilly's replacement, but I want to be the man who fills that void in the midfield. Trust me, I can do this. And performances like that, you have to say, you can do this, and he's only going to get better. The manager will mould him into a player that, you know, and everyone's saying this time next year we're talking about Hatate moving for multi-millions. Watch Bernardo. There's a footballer and a half there, big time.
And you've got people in the comments suggesting that our record signing, Arnie Engels, may struggle to get into the team. It's a fabulous place to be. And again, there's going to be enough games going around for them. And by the way, I thought Engels looked sharp when he came on, considering he was coming on into a derby. I mean, he didn't do anything spectacular, but I was looking at him going, you can just tell you're going to be good. Henrik McLarsson, after the first 10 minutes, I was totally relaxed, knew we were going to win. John's talking about bringing on the Champions League. Scotland the Brave. Can we all appreciate the Joe Hart video going about in social media? It shows the winner mentality we've installed. He was getting them going before the game. Joe Hart, even though he wasn't obviously no longer involved, he was still involved. Scotland the Brave again. Clement showing he's a rookie compared to Rodgers. You can read the rest of that. But I just think our players are so much better than theirs. Our manager's so much better. I was looking at their team yesterday, right, and I looked at someone like Connor Barron in the midfield, and I was looking at Connor Barron thinking he's the guy Rangers are tasking with basically going up against Callum McGregor and being the star for them, their new summer signing. And I was thinking, would Connor Barron even get on our bench with the depth we have in the squad? And I was kind of 50-50 in that question, genuinely, because we just have so much more quality than them. I think that's how we feel as fans, Ryan, going into the game, that we're so much better than them. But you've always got that doubt in the back of your mind of, it's a one-off game, you never know if we don't turn up. But if we do turn up, we win these games, and it's 9 wins for the last 12 derbies now.
I always say it in every single pre-match that we do. If Celtic turn up and play the way that we expect them to play and know that they can play, then they will win football matches because they're better than everybody else. That's not arrogance, it's just facts. The statistics back it up, the transfers back it up, the transfer records back it up. It's all black and white, honestly. Celtic turn up and do the business. I don't think any of Rangers players get in Celtic starting 11. I think maybe one or two get on the bench. Dujon Sterling maybe as a utility player, but even then, I think there's a real chasm between the two sides in terms of quality, in terms of assets as well. That's the thing. Rangers are trying to bring in assets to the team. Celtic have got assets that they can sell all over the pitch. So from a financial point of view, they're so far ahead. They're in the Champions League. They sell out Celtic Park every week, every second week. There will be the Champions League packages that will come out that will get sold out. They're just in. There's such a gap between the two sides. Has there ever been? Well, obviously in history there will have been bigger gaps between the two sides, but in terms of modern football, the way that the two teams are positioned, I don't think there's been a bigger gap from when I've been watching Celtic, from the amount of money that Celtic have got compared to Rangers, amount of assets that they've got compared to Rangers, and the stranglehold that they have in this fixture, particularly from Brendan Rodgers. This is Brendan Rodgers' fixture. Look at his record. It's an incredible record. It's a record that you'd probably think Celtic would have again for a manager against like a Hearts, a Hibs or an Aberdeen. It's Rangers. Brendan Rodgers has only lost one game against Rangers in his 4 years of managing Celtic.
19 games, something 19. Like that.
115 drawn, 3 lost 1.
That's dominance. It's utter dominance from Brendan Rodgers, and it's very likely going to continue because you can see the shoots of growth, and particularly in that midfield. I'm seeing an evolution in the midfield. You look at those subs that came on yesterday. It was like the cavalry was coming. The second unit was coming on. You've got Adam Ida, who's still getting up to match sharpness. Arne Engels, record signing. Those two players alone, that's like 19.5 million, 19.5 million on two players. It's crazy. Luke McCowan, who was a captain at Dundee. So you're bringing on another leader onto the pitch. There's players that didn't even get on the bench yesterday. Odin, Thiago Holm, Yang. Just shows you the team is improving and the standard has been raised from pre-season to now, or from last season to this season. But I think it's a really, really exciting time to watch Celtic. But I think they'll really get judged in Europe this season. Let's see if they can make that jump. They are better than everybody else in the league. That's very obvious. But they need to show that they can do it on the European stage. I'm looking at that Bratislava game. I want Celtic to go out and send a message to Europe that they're going to be one of the bogey teams in the Champions League this year.
It's not arrogance or cockiness, Hamish, it's fact. What Rangers player gets in this current Celtic team? None. What Rangers player from yesterday would you say, I like the look of him? Or there's the, the Rangers are poor, but they've got such and such. No, like him or loathe him, in the recent past, you would have said Morelos is a pest. He can score goals. You might, you would maybe like to see him, in a Celtic team because of that factor. He's got uncanny knackers. Not so much scoring against Celtic, but he scored important goals in Europe, stuff like that. You might have said, Ryan Kent turns it on in big games. I'm just saying, but these are guys that would have been in that conversation, or whoever. Currently, none of that Rangers team get in this Celtic team. None of them. And that shows you the gulf in class, because Celtic, as I said before, we are at a moment in time where Celtic have better players, better team, and a better manager, and just better everything on and off the park. So it's no surprise that the steamroller Rangers, because they just haven't. It's the whole mentality thing, isn't it? Rangers just haven't got it within them to come to Celtic. I don't think Rangers believed, even when Clement was saying we're not going to come and park the bus, I don't think they believed they could win. And, it cut to Barry Ferguson, didn't it? I believe, the Sky cameras, and so in the past you might have said, you might have loathed him, but you'd have loved him in your team for, qualities that he brings. But Rangers have got nobody like that. Nobody that you think need to watch him. The one you might have thought they'd been Dessers and Czerny, they were just marked completely out of the game.
Yeah, Czerny, God, I thought that was like the second coming of Messi, the way they were going on about him, but he was awful.
Yeah, he was dreadful. So and that's this moment in time. Will it be different at Christmas and New Year and the corresponding fixture at Ibrox? We will see. But listen, you're judging it on what you saw yesterday. Celtic were streets ahead of Rangers. And that's why it's just a statement of fact that no Rangers players will get in the current Celtic team. And nobody can argue with that. Not even, the most die-hard Rangers fan, I don't think, would argue with that.
Yeah. There's not a single aspect that you would look at of either team and say, I'd take that from Rangers. Mentality, quality, desire, everything that, we own them at the moment. There's been a couple of comments mentioning invincible season, and it's incredibly early to say something like that, right? And I think after a win like yesterday, it's very easy to get swept up. And I remember a couple of years ago, that amazing season we had under Ange Postecoglou, where we were so consistent, and we lost a game, I think 5 or 6 matches in away to St Mirren, had a shocker that day and lost 2-0. That can happen to even the best Celtic teams. I just want to float the idea on Monday the 2nd of September of I don't think it being a ridiculous shout to suggest that Celtic could certainly go for a long time domestically without losing a game. We'll wait and see. You just struggle to see with the quality we have both on the pitch starting and off the bench, and to be honest, the lack of quality in the rest of Scottish football, maybe Aberdeen aside this season, you struggle to see a team beating us right now. Obviously it can change. I think when the European stuff comes in, it might be difficult, and obviously winter months it's always difficult as well, but I don't think it's a ridiculous shout is the point I'm making. And I just wanted to get that on record on the 2nd of September, as I say, so that if it does happen, I can mention it. Yeah, Red Glen's saying, Hamish, you need to lose a goal before you can lose a game. It's a fair point.
It's a very fair point. I'm already looking forward to the next weekend in the Scottish Premiership. It's a shame that we have to wait a couple of weeks for it to come round, because Celtic play first for a change. They play Hearts at home. If you're Brendan Rodgers, you want your hands on Hearts at the moment. Let's be honest, because they are all over the place. And Rangers are going to Dundee United, who are third place at the moment, who have had a really good start to the season under Jim Goodwin. They're a promoted side, but they'll cause problems. That'll be like a derby game, Dundee United versus Rangers. It should be a fiery atmosphere at Tannadice. And the pressure will be on, because you expect Celtic to go and get the job done against Hearts and do it convincingly in a couple of weeks' time against Stephen Naismith's team. That's if he's still the manager at that point, to be fair. But I can't see where Celtic slip up at this point in time. There's nothing to suggest that they will. They just look as if they're going to go from strength to strength. That'll be another 2 weeks down the road. Arne Engels will understand what Brendan Rodgers is asking from him. He'll have been rubbing I mean, he'll have been rubbing with some of the greatest midfielders in modern history, and Kevin De Bruyne for a couple of weeks. That can only help his game going forward. You know, he's a Belgian international, and he could only get on the bench against Rangers yesterday. It's an incredible situation to be in for Celtic. 2 weeks. I hope this international break goes quickly, because I personally cannot wait to see Celtic come back. You're now all of a sudden, and it wasn't the case last season, but you're looking forward to watching Celtic again, and you want to see the next game. You want to see this team in Europe and in the League Cup, hopefully get their League Cup back that they lost last year. Who's to say they won't? It's the gauntlet has been thrown down. Who is honestly going to stop Celtic at this point in time? I'll wait. I'll await that happening if it does happen.
Hamish, you're floating the invincible idea. I'm sinking it till 4 games to go in the season. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
I think you have it in your head. They've completed that before, and there's nothing in your head that says that history can't repeat itself. But what I will say, you're the bounce of the ball. You're a dreadful decision. You know, a wicked deflection. Call it what you like. Yeah, a St Mirren day. From all that being smashed to smithereens. And I don't think there's anything wrong in thinking like it. I think the manager, you know, might be inwardly, would probably say to his players, look, you get a chance to do something special here. But I still think it's pretty early for that. But at this moment in time, you look and you say to yourself, it's going to take one of those things that I mentioned there, a freak bounce of a ball, a freak deflection, a terrible decision to go against you, or a real stinker like St Mirren to knock you off your stride. I think we just enjoy the way they're playing at the minute, see how far they can take this domestically, and if it gets to 4 games to go, then I'll maybe bow down to your crystal ball and say you were right all along. Why did I ever doubt you? But you know, I'm a bit of a realist at times. You know what I mean? Cynical, realist, and humorist at times. But yeah, there you go. And I think after 4 games, you sort of think to yourself that is the case. You know. But listen, I'm enjoying it. I just want to see the way it transitions to Europe, because as you say, I think domestically they'll take care of themselves.
Yeah, Europe's the big stuff for me. Listen, I'm not saying it's going to happen, because it's like Invincible seasons are kind of, they should be one in a lifetime type thing. It's ridiculous if you even speak about it, and we're only 4 games in. Like I'm not an idiot. Like I'm not kind of just thinking, we're going to beat Rangers, we're going to beat. But I just think it's I just have a feeling. I just have a weird feeling that we're witnessing something really special. Yeah. And we're not going to keep this level up. We'll hit the winter months and games will become a bit of a slog, and we'll get injuries, and the Champions League stuff might mean the domestic matches become the second most important thing that week if we've got a big European game, especially if we're well clear of Rangers. So it's not always going to be like this season. We'll have tougher moments, but I don't know. I just have a weird feeling that we're witnessing a brilliant Celtic team here. There's a bit of chat about Carter Vickers as well. A lot of comments asking what the situation is. There's actually just been a bit of an update, and it's a good update. He's expected to be fit for the game against Hearts on our return. It's been reported that it was more of a precautionary. Was he brought off? Oh no, sorry, it was after the game, wasn't it? He was wearing a protective boot because there was a photo of that, so it said that was a precaution. So the news appears to be good over Cameron Carter-Vickers. He should be back for the Hearts game. Right, final comments, Ryan?
Just bragging rights maintain, and they're remaining at Celtic. And I said it yesterday on the YouTube, on the post-match video. Glasgow's green, and I can't see how it is going to change in the near to far future. They look so set up for more dominance. The biggest enemy is themselves, and complacency setting in. But I want them to remain hungry from now until the end of the season. If they do that, then I really struggle to see how anybody is going to stop this juggernaut from going on and winning everything. It's early days. It's only been 5 games. Things can happen. But, we can only judge what has happened right now. We can only talk about the here and now. And we see something special happening at Celtic. I just want to see it replicated in Europe. I think that's the only thing stopping Brendan Rodgers from really being discussed in and amongst the greats as a European run, or to be up with the levels of other managers who's I'm not even going to name them because we all know the giants of Celtic managerially. I think that's the one thing stopping Brendan Rodgers from being named in the same sentence as the who's all the who's who of managers and times gone by. If he can get that, then who's to say he's not on the same level as them. But domestically, if I'd say he already is, it's just all about replicating that in Europe. Let's see if he can do it.
Tony?
Yeah, I mean, I just think you're excited where we can take this, where this team can go. And I think you're trying to put a tin lid in it and rein yourself in a wee bit, but you saw enough yesterday to, and I know where you're coming from, that it could be the start of something special. You do see that, and you just see the way this team's playing in the way the manager used a word yesterday when he was asked about in terms of the weakness, and he said growth. He said the greatest thing for him was the growth of this team, and it's evolving. It's been evolving since he came in last season. There's been a bit of troughs there, but this team's still to hit its peak, and that's exciting for everybody. And if there's more growth in this team, which there is, it's only human that you're going to get excited by it, and you want to see that growth where they can really make their mark, and that's in Europe. Because I think if they continue to grow domestically, then they'll win the title, no problem at all. They'll win it by a fairly handsome margin, won't they? So that I just want to see that growth happen in the Champions League this season. That would be convincing to me, and it would be evidence to me that there has been real growth. And I'm excited by what this team can serve up at that level moving forward.
Can't wait for the international break to be over. Can't wait for the I was going to say the Hearts game, but more importantly the Slovan Bratislava game. Wow, that's going to be a big one, and then I think we're Dortmund after that, aren't we? So it's going to come thick and fast. We're going to go nowhere during the international break. We'll be doing videos every day, so you don't have to worry about that either. Starting tomorrow when we'll be back. Thanks guys for your time and your chat. Cheers everyone for watching. We'll catch you tomorrow.